Fight fans, this is the 13th round where we discuss all things boxing that are boxing. And on today's episode, we will be discussing Canelo Alvarez's upcoming Cinco de Mayo weekend fight, Anthony AJ Joshua versus Jermaine Ortiz, Edward Berlanga leaving Top Rank, and a possible summertime clash between Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. We will also be recapping Shacky Shock Foster and Ray Vargas, Mario Barrios return to the ring against Giovanni Santiago, and Emmanuel Navarrete versus Liam Wilson. So without any other further ado, let's get to the show. Ray Vargas and O'Shaquie Foster was the main event of a 3-fight card brought to you by The Zone, which also co-featured Mario Boxer Barrios. But back to the Ray Vargas O'Shaquie Foster. This fight was a wonderful, wonderful fight which went all 12 rounds. Ray Vargas came into this fight 36-0. O'Shaquie Foster came into this fight on a win streak out this world. So, both fighters stepped into this ring highly, highly confident, and they were fighting for the vacant WBC super featherweight title. I felt O'Shaquie Foster did a wonderful job of controlling the tempo of this bout and never really allowing Ray Vargas to settle into the fight. He controlled the tempo, used his angles, moved around really well. Now, it may have been a surprise to Ray Vargas because it was a surprise to us watching that Shaquie Foster did not switch hit. He's an orthodox fighter, but he's known to switch southpaw. O'Shaquie Foster stayed in the orthodox position throughout the whole fight and controlled the tempo using his angles, staying on his horse, fighting when Vargas fights, and he looked like the better boxer in the contest. All 3 judges scored the fight for O'Shaquie Foster, giving O'Shaquie Foster the unanimous decision. Big shout out to O'Shaquie Foster winning his first big belt, in boxing. And that's a big accomplishment. More big fights are going to come for Foster on the horizon. As for Ray Vargas, we know Ray Vargas is moving up from featherweight to challenge for the super featherweight title at 130. So Ray Vargas has announced that he's going back down to featherweight, 126, and he will defend his WBC strap where he is the champion. So, big things in the future for both of these fighters. They put on a wonderful show. Shout out to O'Shaquie Foster. The co-main event on that same fight card was LS Teca, Mario Boxer Barrios versus Giovanni Santiago. Now, Boxer Barrios came into this fight on a 2-fight losing streak. Now the 2 fights that he lost, let's just be honest, they were game. He lost to Gervonta Tank Davis, who moved up to 140 to fight Barrios, but we all know Tank is a puncher. And Barrios looked pretty good in that fight until Tank knocked his ass out. And the other loss he had coming into this fight more recently was Keith Thurman, where he moved up to 147. Barrios moved up to 147, and he fought Keith Thurman. That's a hell of a fight to be moving up a weight class and fighting Keith Thurman, where he's comfortable. And we see Thurman's moving up to 54 now. Thurman's a hell of a puncher, regardless of what people may say about Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman can punch. He's a great boxer. Boxer Barrios went all 12 rounds with Keith Thurman. So coming into this fight, Mario Barrios was moving back down to 140, and he's looking to kind of get his grit back under his claw. And I'll tell you what, Mario Barrios did a wonderful job in this fight against Giovanni Santiago. The fight, was a wonderful fight. I had Mario Barrios dominating the early rounds 1 through 3. I gave Giovanni Santiago rounds 4 and 5. But for the rest of the way, this is a 10-round bout, by the way. But for the rest of the way, Mario Barrios controlled the fight as long as it lasted. And I'll just let you guys see how this fight culminated.
Now, he don't want it. Go get him. Go get him, Sonny.
Our next fight on the docket is Emmanuel Navarrete versus Liam Wilson. This was a wonderful bout as well, and it was brought to you by Top Rank, held on ESPN Plus. Emmanuel Navarrete came into this fight as one of the hottest boxers in boxing, and we know Liam Wilson is a puncher. So it was good to see, those two get together and make this fight happen, and they did not disappoint. Early in the fight, Liam Wilson was controlling this fight. Emmanuel Navarrete looked bad. He looked sloppy. He was really off base. He couldn't find the distance, couldn't find a range to touch Wilson. And at times he looked very, very sloppy, throwing wild, loopy uppercuts and hooks. And I felt that Liam Wilson was controlling the fight, making Navarrete uncomfortable. Navarrete could not sit down on his punches. And when he tried to step and punch, he looked very, very awkward. And somewhere in those mid rounds, between 4 and 6, Liam Wilson, he put Emmanuel Navarrete on the canvas with a hard shot. My goodness. And Navarrete got up, and it was like a completely different fighter was in the ring. Navarrete started throwing combinations, landing his shots, stalking Wilson, breaking him down, and the pressure ended up being too much for Liam Wilson. I'll just let you guys take a look at how this fight finished. This brings us to our favorite part of the show. You know what it is.
Betting on boxing. On this week's edition, we took Emmanuel Navarrete to stop Liam Wilson in rounds 9 through 12 respectively. We also covered Navarrete by decision. We placed $10 on round 9, $10 on round 10, $5 on round 11, $5 on round 12, and $30 on Emmanuel Navarrete to win by decision. Navarrete went on to knock out Liam Wilson in the 9th round. $60 in total wages, paid out $170, giving us a total profit of $110. Cha-ching!
847,542, 847,543, 847,500. Oh, yeah. Back to what we were doing, the show. Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor closing in on a deal for a title fight. Reports are circulating that Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor are in negotiations to fight for Josh Taylor's WBO title at 140 pounds. Both of these fighters are coming off controversial victories in which I believe they were gifted decisions. More recent, Teofimo Lopez was gifted the decision versus Sander Martin, in which Teofimo Lopez went down on the canvas 2 or 3 times in that bout. One wasn't called, one was called a slip. But I thought Teofimo Lopez lost that fight and they robbed Sander Martin. And the latter, Josh Taylor, he was given the nod over Jack Catterall when obviously he lost that bout. The whole world knows Jack Catterall beat Josh Taylor. All in all, I think this is a wonderful fight between Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. They are looking to have this bout sometime in the summer over in the UK. So, I'm looking forward to the fight. I wish both fighters a great training camp, and let's get it on. Berlanga leaves Top Rank. Edward Berlanga has left Top Rank and Bob Arum, and he has switched sides and went over to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. So Edward Berlanga will be fighting on the Zone. And we have some pictures from, the contract signing, and they have a Dracula clause. Check this out. Here we see Edward Berlanga with Matchroom boxing promoter Eddie Hearn and a boxing contract Dracula clause. Rule number 1, no biting your opponent at any time. Rule number 2, memorize rule number 1. I think this is a wonderful move by Edward Berlanga, leaving Top Rank and going over to Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing. Not to say anything bad about Top Rank and Bob Arum, but Edward Berlanga was starting to have things happen that was starting to cast a shadow over his career. And why not get a fresh start? So big shout out to Edward Berlanga for making this move. Wish you the best. Stay in the gym. Look forward to seeing you come back. Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin. Anthony A.J. Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin, April 1st at the O2 Arena. I love the fight. I love it. You got people complaining saying Joshua's fighting a nobody. What? Maybe you need to watch more boxing. Jermaine Franklin, he's an up-and-coming fighter. He just fought Dillian White in a classic fight. That fight could have went either way, could have been a draw. Jermaine Franklin did not get the nod in the fight. Dillian White, they gave it to Dillian White. But Jermaine Franklin is game. And big shout out to Jermaine Franklin. He's stepping up, taking big competition. Hey, that man ain't backing down for nobody. He got out the ring with Dillian White, went straight to Anthony Joshua. As for AJ needs this fight. AJ is coming off 2 losses to Alexander Usyk. And we all saw the meltdown after the second loss to Usyk. So, I think this is a great fight to maybe build Anthony Joshua back up. Now, if Jermaine Franklin so happens to shock the world and AJ loses, because he will be the favorite. Anthony Joshua will be the favorite in Vegas. But if Jermaine Franklin shocks the world, then what happens to Anthony Joshua from here? Does he retire? Does he keep boxing? I don't know. We will see. Canelo Alvarez and John Ryder are finalizing a deal for May 6th. It's looking like Canelo Alvarez will be taking on John Ryder May 6th, that Cinco de Mayo weekend. Canelo, he fights on Cinco de Mayo weekend all the time. So nothing's different this year. He's taking on John Ryder. Now, we got a lot of people giving Canelo a little pushback for fighting John Ryder when he could be fighting other people in the division. But I'm kind of pro Canelo with this one. Yeah, of course, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant, I believe, have all beat John Ryder. And Canelo beat all 3 of them. So, no, this fight, I don't think John Ryder really has a chance. But Canelo is coming off a loss to Dimitri Bivol, and he's looking to get, a tune-up fight. And who's to say Canelo does not deserve a tune-up fight? Let's look at his last few fights. He's fought with Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Dimitri Bivol. Come on, you could throw a John Ryder in there. That ain't so bad, if he's going to come back and fight another big name. And also, Canelo, in the last 3 years, is the most active fighter. Hands down. You might have a few fighters not relatively known like Canelo who fight, as much as Canelo. But as far as these fighters who have the bag, have made the check, Canelo is the most active. And Canelo, we wouldn't be having these undisputed champions if Canelo didn't set that standard by becoming undisputed at 168. So I like the fight with Canelo and John Ryder. Looking forward to see Canelo, back on his A game. I hope he stays at 68 and leaves Bivol alone. I don't want to see that fight, but I'm looking forward to seeing Canelo back in the ring May 6th. All right, we got some disappointing news. I am not pleased to report that Adrian Broner's comeback fight February 25th against Michael Williams Jr. has been canceled due to Michael Williams Jr. suffering a broken jaw in sparring. Now, we are a week away from that scheduled bout. I as a boxing trainer, particularly don't like the fact that they were sparring so close to this fight. But this was such a big fight for Michael Williams Jr. I kind of get it. Sometimes you can overtrain. And Michael Williams Sr., his father, went online on social media, and the first thing he said in all capital letters was, first and foremost, Roy Jones Jr. is not my son's trainer anymore, which shows me there was a little riffraff. All right, we got a little bit of disappointing news. Adrian Broner's February 25th comeback fight against Michael Williams Jr. has been canceled due to Michael Williams Jr. suffering a broken jaw in sparring. Now, me as a trainer, I do not like my fighters sparring or going 100% sparring that close to a fight. That fight is a week away from now, what was supposed to be a week away from now. I don't think it's any reason Michael Williams Jr. should have been sparring so hard headed into that fight. And I'm taking it that Michael Williams Sr., his father, feels the same way because he took to social media and the very first thing he said in all capital letters was, and don't quote me verbatim, but it's probably verbatim, he said, first and foremost, Roy Jones Jr. is not my son's trainer anymore, period. You know, so that shows me that there was maybe some riffraff between those two camps, Michael Williams Sr. and Roy Jones Jr., where they told him he's not training him anymore. You know, it's got to be a lot of disappointment. That was the biggest fight of Michael Williams Jr. career. So I know, you know, he definitely wanted to make that bout happen. Hopefully he gets better and we see AB in the ring because AB was looking really, really in shape. I was really interested to seeing both of these fighters in the ring and seeing how this fight was going to play out. So I'm disappointed. The fight's not happening. Hopefully Adrian Broner stays in shape, keeps his head on right, and we see him in the ring, you know, sometime before the summer. Now to the good news. We, Rounds Boxing Club, we are closing in on 1,000 subscribers. So I just want to give each and every last one of you all a big shout out. All of the subscribers, all of the future subscribers, all of the people who are watching who may not be subscribed, big shout out, all love. We do appreciate it here at Rounds Boxing Club. We will continue to bring you the live streams and keep you up to date on the current boxing news going on. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show. We do appreciate you watching. And as always, like, subscribe, protect yourself at all times. We out. Peace.